Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Curious Competitor podcast with me, your host, current New Jersey Devils defenseman, Connor Carrick. Join me and my guest today as we talk about high performance, dreaming, the importance of dreaming big, the importance of being a leader in our respective communities. She is a 6-time world champion and 2-time member of the U.S. women's hockey Olympic team. She is a gold medalist in Pyeongchang in 2018 and a silver medal in 2014 in Sochi, which we don't talk about. But she is an exceptional individual, someone I've known as a friend for a long time. I'm honored to have her on today. I'm super excited about my conversation today with Kendall Coyne-Schofield. Let's do this. Kendall, thank you for joining me today. I'm super excited to talk to you. We grew up in a lot of the same rinks in Arctic, ice arena down in Orland Park, where both of our careers, sort of began. You were always a part of that 92 Chicago chill group as I was growing up, which had some players I looked up to, and yourself and Christian George, and I think it was Tim Schultz, right? That was Schultz's first name? Mm-hmm. Who else was on that team?
Oh, wait.
Winkler was playing up back then, Derek Winkler.
Yeah, Derek Schultz.
Derek Schultz, that was it. Tim Schultz, the CCM rep that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's what
I know
Derek
Tim
Schultz.
I know Tim Schultz as well.
So I grew up going to watch some big games. You versus like the 92 Mission with TJ Tynan and Robbie Russo. What was your development like? Because I read through a little bit of your bio on your website. And I've listened to, we've been friends a long time. So I'm decently familiar, with your story. And it's interesting. You talk about, being a girl in hockey. A lot of kids at school sort of didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I even felt that way as a male hockey player. Like I felt like hockey didn't get big on the South Side where we grew up until really the Hawks got really good in, the mid to late 2000s. And then everyone was asking me all of a sudden, hey, would you watch the game last night? And, it was like overnight. It's like, hey, I've been the hockey player at school since I was 6, but glad you guys recognize what a great sport we have. What was your childhood development like, on the South Side in Orland Park?
Yeah, I think regardless of gender, mine was very similar to yours growing up in school, playing a sport that most kids didn't play and most kids didn't understand. And a lot of that is due to the lack of visibility that hockey had in the Chicago and Chicagoland area. As we know, the Blackhawks games weren't on television, in the 90s, early 2000s when we were a kid. It wasn't until 2007 when the Blackhawks games started to be on TV, and then kids started watching it. And I entered high school right around that time. And of course, Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves coming to Chicago enlightened the city of hockey. And I remember exactly what you just explained too.
It was almost overnight, right?
Yeah, but it was overnight. But then going to school and people, talking about a hockey game, I was so confused. I'm like, yeah, hockey's been a part of my life for the last 15 years. And here we are talking about it and talking about the Blackhawks. And then obviously they won in 2010 and everyone was so excited. But it really felt like I lived in my own world for a lot of my childhood, because I would go to school, I would, be the tomboy playing Nerf football and doing everything that most of the girls weren't doing. And then I would get home from school and I would get ready to go to hockey. And most girls were definitely not doing that. And even boys, in our hometown, they weren't playing hockey. It was definitely a rarity. So I felt oftentimes I was in my own world, and people would write their school projects about their baseball team and their basketball teams and their football teams, and I would write about my hockey team and our travel that we would do, and everyone would be like, you do what? And what's the Chicago chill? And I remember when I switched the Chicago mission, people were like, wait, what? You're on a mission to do what? And what is this? What is this? And, I explained to them, like, this is travel hockey. And there were a few girls that were playing travel volleyball, and I played travel softball as well. So I could connect with them and compare our schedules and, what our goals were. And it definitely was to reach the pinnacle of the sport. But it was different growing up because not many people knew about hockey.
Yeah, when I It's interesting you say that, because when I grew up, like I was always looking for like that best friend to practice with. Like I always just wanted, to have that sense of community around the sport. And it wasn't until like I would travel to Toronto, for example, where like it used to show its face on Sports Center. You'd watch the top 10 and like you'd get like an Ovechkin highlight like once every 2 weeks on like the top 10 versus like you'd go up, I'd be in my hotel room up in, whatever Marriott up in Toronto, and it'd be like 7 out of the top 10 would be hockey plays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess I grew to be jealous of it. And, where I want to go with this is what the power of, there's two things when I hear your story, and we've talked about it over, dinner and just knowing each other. One is the power of role model, with Cammy Granado and what Cammy really allowed you to know that you could go on to do. And the other element, and I think it's something that's close to the development of both of our careers, is the element of, and the relationship we have with sacrifice. And you're someone I really look up to in that I feel you always work hard when you should, and you're feeling like you're ready to, like you have the energy to, you woke up on the right side of the bed and all that. But you also have a grittiness to yourself that when you don't want to do the work, you still show up. Like where did that come from, and how did you develop that resiliency, that fortitude growing up?
Yeah, I think to go back to your first question, your first point, Billie Jean King says it better than anybody. You need to see it to be it. And I remember growing up wanting to be Chris Chelios and wanting to be on the Blackhawks. And I wore number 7 and all my OPIA Orland Park Ice Arena jerseys. And my softball number was 7, and I was 7 for Chris Chelios. And then I met Cammy Granado when I was 7. And it was quite young. But at that time, I was like, I want to be her. Okay, so my goal is to go to the Olympics to win a gold medal, and that's what girls win gold medals and boys win Stanley Cups. And I had this visual by seeing her and holding her gold medal that's the route that I want to go on. And it's not like I could relate this goal to many people in school or talk about it, because a lot of people didn't get it. A lot of people were telling me, well, girls don't even belong in hockey. So, good luck, go do something that normal girls do. And so I think the power of a role model is extremely important. I think the power of visibility is even more important, because you need to see it to be it. And I'm sure you saw a lot more hockey players that looked like you growing up than I looked like me. However, I never really saw gender as a kid. And if I did see gender as a kid, I don't think I would still be in this game, because there were a lot of, unfortunately, parents that, would come up to my parents and say that, why are you doing this to her? Why is she playing hockey? She should go play sports that normal girls play. Why are you doing this to her? And my poor parents took it so much, and it was more like, this is what she wants to do. We're not making her do this. And leading into your second point with hard work, that's, what has helped me become the person I am today is my parents never once made me work hard. They never once made me get up to go to hockey. They never once made me get up to go do push-ups and sit-ups in my basement when, I was 12 years old and I didn't know how to work out. It was, the hard work and sacrifice that I saw them make to allow me to play sports, instilled that in me. Well, if they're doing all that they can do that I can play sports, I better put the exact same amount of energy and sacrifice into what I'm doing. And, that still holds true to this day. And I'm very grateful for the sacrifices that they made to allow me to play hockey and play softball and basketball and track and field and all the sports I asked to play growing up. And, I think that's so important. I tell young kids every day that, you can control your attitude and you can control your effort. And there's no excuses for, not being able to control those. And those are two things I focus on every single day.
Yeah, when I was growing up, there were two things that made me pop out of bed as a kid. One was my mom would say, SpongeBob's coming on, you're going to miss it. And the other one was, hey, you better get up if we want to make it to hockey practice on time. My dad would take me up to Darien Ice Rink and I do practice and skating work before school and that. And, going back to Orland Park Ice Arena, like, I got to say, like, rest in peace to their Oreo shake before it became Arctic Ice Arena. Their Oreo shake, like practice and an Oreo shake, that was my childhood.
Mine was the red and the blue slushies. the red and blue. And it was like, what are you feeling today, red or blue?
It's a shame they made you pick. They can always blend them.
Yeah, but I don't know.
And I think that's, you talk about respect for your family and that reverence for your parents, sacrifice and all that they did, all the mountains they moved growing up. hockey has this tradition of being such a family-based sport where it does require, all members of the family to do their best to support the game. In my family, we had 3 boys that played, and I know my mom and dad, worked very hard. There's a lot of communication to get us, to and from games. What does, hockey mean, to your family, and how, your parents and your family in general must be so proud of the way that you've rewarded them, with your work ethic over the years.
Yeah, I think all sports, not just hockey, but I think sports brings us together. And I think, during these challenging times, it's evident that we're all missing sports, because whether it brings us together to watch our favorite team play, or it brings us together to watch one of our loved ones play, sports brings people together and celebrates, the sport and the people within it in such a magnificent way. And I think we're all missing that right now. But, I think, accomplishing my dreams of going to the Olympic Games really made all of the sacrifice worth it. And I remember back in 2014 when we were in Sochi, the moment that our coach allowed us to see our family for the first time after a game. And I saw my 2 brothers, my sister, my mom, and my dad. And for me, that was like the aha moment. That was the moment that, I'm sure you dream about raising that Stanley Cup over your head. That was it for me, because we all made it. I'm the one on the ice. I'm the one wearing the jersey. I'm the one people see and talk about. But you know what? We all did it, and we did it together. And to be on those grounds in Sochi, right after the game, I was like, you guys, we did it. Like we did it. And, coming away from the Sochi games, obviously we didn't accomplish our goal of winning a gold medal, but that was really the moment that I felt like all the sacrifice, the heartbreak, the ups, the downs, the road trips, the broken down cars, the tough school assignments, and all of the moments that no one got but us. We finally did it, and it was finally all worth it, because as you know, growing up in the hockey world, not many people understand the true sacrifice that goes into making it to the pinnacle of the sport. And you do it as a family, and we did it, and so that was really special.
Yeah, I think in my career that moment was really the NHL draft. That was kind of like the handing off of my parents. I shook my dad's hand, I hugged my mom, and I just remember feeling like this proudness that we had gotten this far, but also like an overwhelming like amount of responsibility. Like, okay, it's my show now. Like my parents have done all they can to get me to this moment. And now my name's in the hat. It's my time to run with the opportunities I may or may not get, may or may not earn over the next coming years. But, let's start with the heartbreak in Sochi. So you guys take silver there. How hard was that loss in Sochi, and how did it, spoiler alert, you do go on to win in Pyeongchang. Mm-hmm. And, how did, the 2014 Olympics, and of course there were world championships and a whole lot of hockey played in between there, so I don't want to, graze over that, but what lessons did you take from 2014 that made you a more veteran, more experienced player, come 2018? Yeah,
I think there's no better experience than a heartbreak, and there's no better learning moment than a heartbreak. We've all been, you and I have been playing hockey for a very long time. 3 minutes and 36 seconds left to go in a gold medal game, a Stanley Cup final, whatever it might be, 2-goal lead. What are you telling yourself? We got this. We got this. This isn't the bag. We just have to shut them down, trap it. Get the puck deep. Play it safe, and the game's ours. And, that's the exact opposite of what happened. And so I think, being young, and I remember going to the Olympics and my eyes are wide open and I'm just so excited to be there. I'm taking everything in, whether it's the clothes that we got, it's seeing all the other countries, learning all the other athletes' stories, and just being in awe of the moment. And sometimes that hurts you, sometimes that helps you. And I think, the first time going through it, I didn't do a good enough job providing that balance for myself. And I think you have to lean on the veterans who have been there. And that's something I could have done a little bit better, is, ask them more questions and ask them for more guidance while being there. But 4 years later, going into Pyeongchang, I had a business mindset. My eyes were not wide open anymore. I knew exactly what to expect. I knew the amount of clothes that we're getting, what it feels like to be there, what the process is like, because there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of attention on, and while there's a lot of attention on a lot, your attention is singular. It's to win a gold medal. And so you have to take that attention and shrink it to what your goal is. And so going into the games the second time, I actually enjoyed it more because I knew what to expect. I knew how to enjoy it. And obviously coming away with a gold medal makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah. How did you apply some of those lessons? So you knew, as a younger player, because that's something I did earlier in my career was I try to, take mental note of whether it was like ways I was treating the locker room or just, when I was traded. For example, when I was traded, I remember just how warm everyone was in welcoming me to the Toronto Maple Leafs the first time I was ever moved. And I checked to myself, like, if I'm ever on a team and a player's traded, I don't care what my role is on that team, I'm going to text that player and, I'm going to have my wife Lexi reach out to their, significant other, if they have one, to welcome them to the organization, because that's such a warm feeling, and it's a nerve-wracking thing walking into a new room. So how did you take some of those lessons as a leader and try to, you can't make someone, you could take a horse to water and you can't make it drink, but maybe the younger players on your team in Pyeongchang weren't always receptive to what you had to say, but how did you try to help lead them given, your leadership role on that team?
Yeah, we had a really special group in Pyeongchang. And I think, it doesn't matter how many times you've been there. And I think that was what was so special about our group, that if you want to call them younger players, I wouldn't really call them younger players. I would call them players who haven't been to the Olympic Games before, but have a ton of international experience. They haven't lost. They haven't felt the heartbreak of losing a gold medal. And for us that did feel that, we needed to lean on their confidence and lean on, their successes, because they don't know what it's like. They don't have that baggage of, sitting in that room 4 years prior and crying their eyes out and seeing their dreams tarnished after hitting a post and giving up a 2-goal lead. They don't have that. And so it was almost like, we were leaning on them, they were leaning on us, and we just had a dynamic group. And I think the key to success in big moments, especially big moments that, you look forward to every 4 years, which is challenging in itself, and you want to play a perfect game because you wait so long for this moment. It's not letting the moment get too big, but also don't let the moment get the best of you either. And I think we all stuck to our strengths, we all stuck to our roles as players, and we put that together. And I think that game is evidence of that. When you think of, we played every single ounce of hockey that the Olympics could have given us in that moment. And, when you look at Jocelyn's shootout move to Maddie's final save, I mean, top to bottom, everyone had a role on that team and everyone did their role. And as you know, that's how you win championships.
What do you remember most from that tournament? Like, what's the one when you're really sitting at home and, you take a look over wherever you keep your medal, your gold medal? Like, what's the first memory, your brightest memory that comes from that tournament?
It'd have to be the celebration after, running off the bench, throwing your sticks and your gloves in the air and, dogpiling each other. I always go last if there's a dog pile. It's not 5'2", undersized. You don't want to be first. But I think it's, you always hear these kind of stories, but really those are the scenarios you play out in your head as a kid, whether you just won your street hockey game or you won Ghost in the Graveyard. You're throwing your arms up in the air. You're so excited. And to finally have that feeling in that moment, I think is something that I'll never forget. And I always think about this. You work a lifetime for those 30 seconds. Yeah. And they're the most magical 30 seconds. And I think especially for me as an Olympic athlete, and I think for a lot of Olympic athletes, the big moment that really hits you, that you did it, is when you hear your national anthem and you see your flag being raised higher than everybody else's. And that's our Stanley Cup moment. It's being locked arm in arm, hearing the national anthem, seeing your flag raised higher than everybody else, and belting it out together. That's the memory.
What are you thinking about as that flag goes up?
We represented our country the best to our ability, and we're coming home on top. And I think after seeing, Sochi to Korea, I think pretty quickly you realize how many more people this is going to impact than yourself and this team. And there's going to be another team standing locked arm in arm, just like we were, hopefully not 20 years down the line, like we had in between 98 and 2018, but you're so excited for the next group who was inspired by our group to do it.
How special was it? Now, I want to talk about this because you and your husband, Michael Schofield. So Michael, for little background, Michael is a guard in the National Football League. He was a I almost said Stanley Cup champion, Super Bowl champion with the Denver Broncos. You got to witness Michael win a Super Bowl, and Michael got to witness you win a gold medal. And I don't want to make you speak for him, but what have you guys learned about each other in that championship pursuit? Because that is so special, I imagine, to share with your loved one.
It was very, very special. And, you think about your childhood dreams, and we had these dreams before we knew each other, but we know what it's like to have a dream and to set a goal to accomplish that dream, and to accomplish it is something special, but then to do it with each other by our sides is even more special, just as special as having our family there as well. But I remember 2014, the heartbreak that I encountered. 2 years later, I'm sitting in the stands at Levi Stadium watching him win the Super Bowl, and I don't know how much I watched because I was so nervous, closing my eyes, jumping up and down. But I just remember, not wishing that feeling upon anybody, knowing how hard he worked, knowing, his dream is right in front of him. It's 60 minutes away. And, I know the pain that losing, in this moment has on you. And so I just didn't wish that upon him. So I was so nervous. And so to see him accomplish his dream of winning a Super Bowl in 2016, and then 2 years later, I used that as motivation going into the Olympics, because I was able to be a part of that celebration with him and live vicariously through that moment with him, and how cool that was. Flow Rider came to their post-game celebration. We didn't get that in Pyeongchang. However, it was just magnificent. And so, 2 years later, I wanted that feeling. I wanted that feeling for my teammates and I wanted that feeling for our country, for USA Hockey. And so I definitely used it as motivation. And to have him there, I don't know if people saw it live or seen the pictures since, but he was able to get on the ice and just lifted me over his head. And it was a really, really special moment.
Well, he just, I think, wanted to give, have the same picture for when you lifted him up after the Super Bowl, right?
But possibly.
Kendall, Lexi, and I went to dinner last year after one of the Chicago Pro Hockey League games, and I was worried for my fingers with Michael. I was, I got written down in one of my questions here. I am in still pursuit of a Traeger after Michael Schofield, having raved about his experience with his. And, for when we get to dinner, how many slabs of ribs do you think we need between the four of us to feed him?
Let's just put it this way. Him, his brother, and I had dinner last night, and there were 3 slabs of ribs.
Done. Not a chance. Unbelievable.
His brother was also an offensive lineman, though.
Yeah, they don't monsters. A couple monsters in that family. So you talk about the skill set that you learn of being able to sort of compartmentalize, right? What am I enjoying versus what am I focusing on, come Olympic time? What are some specific words or practices that you use pre-game in the Olympics to really sort of hone in those nerves and to block out the noise? Because there is a lot of noise in international tournaments. I haven't played in any to the level that you have, but in the under 18s and things like that, there's a lot of pressure. You want to represent your logo well. There's a certain nerve that comes over you, even when you put on that red, white, and blue sweater. You just get excited seeing your name on the back and your country's logo on the front. What specifically do you use to laser in come game time?
I think, especially with the Olympic Games, it's something that you look forward to. And fortunately, it's every 4 years. We want an environment like that for women's hockey every single day. Mm-hmm. However, it is every 4 years. And like I said before, you just want it to go so well because you've worked so hard, for these 3 weeks, for 4 years in between each Olympic cycle. And so I think you have to go back to the basics. You have to go back to, you've been playing this game for how long, and keep it simple, keep it light, keep it fun, and rely on your strengths. You know your role up to that point, mm-hmm. if on your team, and you can't change your role because the stakes are higher. You have to stick to that role, stick to your strengths, stick to your team strengths. And I think that, that's what we did really well. And I think too, when the stakes are high, you can't let the highs get too high and you can't let the lows get too low. And you have to keep that middle ground and keep that middle ground not only on the ice, but in your head as well.
Well, and as we saw, I mean, it's you talk about playing your strengths, which is something that I think as a young athlete, particularly for me as a young professional, I don't know if it's something I did well enough. I think I was very aware of, coming into the National Hockey League, where I was a little bit lagging behind. And I didn't always play to my strengths. Your strengths, as demonstrated in San Jose at the NHL All-Star Weekend, like you're a fantastic, skater, right? And, take us through, I want to know what the process was for how that came to be. Because I know Nate McKinnon isn't going to skate. Mm-hmm. There's a discussion about that. But how does your phone ring? How are you, alerted to what's going to transpire here in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, so 24 hours before I landed in San Jose, I went right from the airport to the SAP Center. Myself, along with the 3 other women, we got on the ice with a group of people to rehearse all of the events that were going to take place on Saturday night. And so with speed being my asset and I knew I wasn't skating, I wanted to do the fastest skater competition. And so I literally got to the rink and had about 5 minutes to get my gear on and get on the ice, and because they were about to wrap up the fastest skater because it's first for the rehearsal. And so I got on the ice and Patrick Burke was out there taking charge of things, and he goes, "You ready to go?" I was like, "Yep." If I pull my groin, I pull my groin. I just went after it, and so I did the skate, and I don't recall my time, but little did I know, Patrick had this plan. He's had my time. Nathan McKinnon wasn't skating, and he took my time, to Commissioner Bettman that night. And, the plan started to be put in place. Little did I know, I went home that night like I was going to be demonstrating the accuracy shooting competition as originally scheduled. And sure enough, the morning happened. We had, a few activities to do, and I was just in my room and my phone rang, and it was Patrick Burke, and he said, "You're going to be the first woman to compete in the NHL All-Star Skills Competition." And I just took a deep breath and almost fell on the floor, and I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
Okay. And, ecstatic in that moment, I hung up and I called my parents. I called my mom. My dad doesn't answer his phone very much, so he's really bad with his cell phone. So I said, "Tell Dad." I called my husband, and he initially looked at see if he could get there in time because he was in Chicago, and it was impossible to get there with 4 hours notice from Chicago to San Jose. But and then I called my best friend. I said, "You guys might want to watch this tonight. It's going to be pretty cool." And so the Colorado Avalanche tweeted at me and asked if I would fulfill Nathan's spot, and I said, "I'll get to the rink as fast as I can," pun intended. And then I got to the rink, and it was a media frenzy. There was a lot going on because the announcement was just made, so it was really special to be able to be a part of that moment beforehand. And then I remember it was like 15 minutes before the event was about to start, and I wasn't in my locker room yet, so I was like, I kind of need to get ready. And I went out for warm-ups, which was really cool for me. I got to shoot on Henrik Lundqvist, which I know is normal to you, but for me, it was so cool. I was like, just don't hit him in the head or all of New York will hate you. So I just whiffed one in there, and I didn't even need to shoot pucks. I was skating, so I just, was doing a couple hard laps and just really taking in the moment because it was incredible. And then went back in, they cut the ice, and it was go time. First event, fastest skater, first skater was me.
I mean, to make you go first is just cruel too. Like that, what was, as you told the line, no helmet, remind you, like, I don't care what anybody says. If you've got to do a fastest lap with no helmet in front of all the NHL All-Stars, like, that'll make just about any player that's not involved, period, of any level, of any gender, that's nerve-wracking.
Well, I think not having a helmet on, I mean, of course, we're always worried about safety and, the safety of the players skating, but I think me not having a helmet on actually really opened the eyes to a lot of people because a lot of people haven't seen a ponytail in hockey equipment before. As scary as that is to say in 2020, but, people seeing, my hair come out of my jersey like it did, and being feminine like I am, it was different.
Well, that moment to me, you've always been a women's hockey star. Really, you've been a part of USA Hockey for a long time, being a 2-time Olympian. You're clearly at the top of the women's game. But after that lap, like how did your life change? Because from afar, it really looked like your sense of mission and your ownership of the torch to further the women's game really took off.
Yeah, I think from that moment, people started recognizing the women's game. They started recognizing the women's game for skill, for talent, for speed, for what it was, not for a game lesser than the men's game. And it provided a platform, not only for me, but for a lot of people in the women's game to speak up for what we're trying to create, what we're trying to instill in the women's game, and what we're trying to change, because a lot of people don't really understand what our life is like. That moment was incredible. And there were all these young hockey players, girls and boys, that were messaging me, whether it was through emails or social or whatever, or letters in the mail, saying they skated their lap, they told me their times, and they told me they wanted to participate in the NHL All-Star Weekend themselves. And to see how inspired young people were from that one moment just shows how important it is for us to be more visible to the hockey community, because that was one moment. We can create those moments more often if we had the proper platform to do so. And so that's what we're really working hard to create. And we're getting there, but I think it's so important. I've accomplished a lot of my individual goals and won a gold medal, but to leave this game better than when I entered it is truly the ultimate goal that any athlete should have, is to pass that torch and to see the next generation fulfill their skates, their shoes, whatever it might be, because that means you accomplish something. That means you've been successful in your sport.
And I mean, you've just got this sense of mission to you, where you really, like, you can hear the passion, and you've always lived it, that you try to really tend to every garden you can touch. You try to leave your community in this game in a better place than when you found it. Mm-hmm. What do you ask of current NHLers? Like, how can we in the men's game continue to help grow our game in general, grow the men's game, grow the women's game? How can we help you?
Yeah, we're stronger together than we ever are apart. And, I see it all summer long when I skate, alongside you and some of your friends. You guys look at me and you see someone who's just trying to improve their craft, trying to work hard, trying to get better in the sport. You don't see me as, this woman on the ice that's who knows what she's doing out here. She's out here because she belongs out here. And I think, together, we need to continue to support each other. We need to continue to, market each other. I think when you look at the WNBA draft the other night, it was so awesome to see all the players welcome, Sabrina Ionescu to New York, whether it was Kevin Durant, and you saw LeBron James. You saw a lot of the NBA players, highlighting what they saw in the draft and welcoming these superstars, these talented basketball players to the league. And, I hope one day we do have a sister league like that. And it is easier for you guys to find us, to support us, to see us, because that's part of the problem too, is, I know you ask me all the time, well, what's going on? Where are you playing? What are you doing? It's not that easy to follow. So, that's what we're trying to create, that path, so it's a lot easier to follow. But I think at the end of the day, I think, when we support each other, it really helps create validity and credibility to who we are as hockey players. And we saw that in the NHL All-Star Weekend when, I skated and those players were talking about me as a hockey player. That's it. And it created a sense of credibility to who I am as a hockey player. And so I think the more that we can continue to highlight each other's, assets in this game, the better off we are.
Yeah, I think hockey as a whole is starting to really try to, honor the attention of our audience, try and honor, the people that love this game and continue to share. Like, in general, hockey players tend to be a pretty private group. There is an element of tradition and just focus on the team and just focus on the sport that's so, beautiful. But also, I think, we have a responsibility. Hockey is a game that's gifted. You don't just kind of wander as a, 4 to 7-year-old, whenever you start. I started at 4 or 5. You don't just start, you don't put skates on your own feet and go wander on the ice. This game has to be gifted. This game has to be shared. I think that's something I've always, respected you for, is you really, in the community that we live in Orland Park, where we're both from, whether it's through your camp, whether it's through providing meals during COVID-19 from, my wife's restaurant at Otimo to the Ronald McDonald House, like, you understand your importance to make your community better. And I guess as a player, it's been so easy for me to want to support the women's game. Number one, I see the skill set, and like you said in the summer, that's really what it is, hockey player to hockey player. We're just snapping the pill around, like there's no differentiation. And I think that there's just always been an immense level of respect, at least in my opinion. Like I've always so intensely respected your level of preparation, because I'm usually getting ready for a training camp that's like 4 months out, right? Like if I'm skating in May, it's because we're playing in September, but the ability for you, I think, to hold your focus over longer periods of time, just because of, how long you can go between international events, is so impressive. I imagine it served you well, here on like quarantine as you're sitting at home.
It's challenging, and I think it gives you a taste a little bit of, what our daily routine is like, not knowing when the next event is, or not knowing, how far between events, we're waiting. I think when you look at this year alone for the women's international game, we didn't play one tournament. Our first tournament was canceled due to the Swedish team boycotting, and our second tournament was canceled due to COVID-19. And so, thinking back to when we were together playing in the CPHL and having fun in that league, obviously preparing for our upcoming season, there's really two big international tournaments that the U.S. program looks forward to, and that's the Four Nations Cup and the World Championships. And neither of those were played this year for different reasons. But so, yes, you have to be intrinsically motivated in women's hockey. And I think I even go back to when you and I both were in high school, Carl Sandburg High School. And, your approach to making it to the next level was, what's going to take me, to the level of being in the National Hockey League. And, you chose your route, and obviously your route worked. And, it hit me pretty hard in high school when I started going through the recruiting process. And, obviously I want to go to a school where I'm going to win 4 national championships and be a part of the best hockey team can be a part of. But then it hit me that, I can't make a living playing this game. I need to go to the best school I can go to that's going to prepare me for life after hockey, that's going to prepare me to get a job that's going to support me and my future family. So what is that answer? And to ask that of a 17-year-old is a pretty challenging question. And so I think, at the end of the day, to continue to have, your support and others' support that, I am a hockey player, it distracts me from the reality that, we're still continuing to fight to make a living playing this game. And even though I'm not doing that yet, I hope to do it for the next generation. I'm going to continue to put the work in so that changes.
Well, and you are the next generation's Cami Granato. Like it is up to you and the Jana Heffords of the world, the gold medal winners to really set the tone, for the PWHPA and for your fellow women's hockey players. Like you guys have done a really nice job, at least in my from my side of the fence. I follow as best I can. Trying to come across as
you're a big supporter.
Beautiful.
We need more.
I try.
We need more people. We need more guys like you. That's for sure.
And I think guys, I think sometimes we feel ill-equipped with like how best to support or the language to use at the right time, and you don't want to offend anybody. There is the NWHL, which is a different conversation. But I think as men's hockey players, we recognize the talent in the women's game. We recognize the clarity of our dream growing up. We were always told if you're able to work hard and grow big and strong, like you want to play in the NHL, this is what you want to do. Go out, be the most beastly athlete you can become. And there was just clarity in that dream and in that mission. And of course, like as someone, I live for a dream. I love dream. I'm still dreaming. Even I just turned 26. Like I'm still dreaming about the quality of player I can be in the NHL. I'm still even dreaming for this podcast. What heights can I take it to? During my career. What do I want to do after my career? And I guess if I can help support the next generation have a place for their dream to live, that would be. I would really take great pride in being able to play even a minute role in that. It's so special.
Well, I think you do play a huge role in that by what you do every day. And I think too, like there's still a lot of young girls and boys looking up to you and wanting to be you. And I don't think that it necessarily matters if a young girl's looking up to you and wanting to be you, but yet, might not make it to the NHL, but still is pulling inspiration through your play and through who you are as a person. They might be inspired to start a podcast one day. And I think, that we've all been in that situation, whether it's, how many young kids looked up and wanted to be Michael Jordan in our area, right? I know we
gotta talk because we just watched it last night.
We're a little young, but
the Last Dance.
Every street hockey game started with that Bulls intro. You're a little kid, every little kid's throwing their tongue out of their mouth, shooting basketball hoops. And we were so young, but we didn't even understand the magnitude of, what Michael Jordan accomplished. We knew he was the best athlete of all time. However, it's like so cool to see it come to real life and watch it every Sunday during quarantine.
Well, and it just goes back to like, what a gift it is to, that he's sharing his story. And, we have a responsibility to share our story because we don't know, what that'll ignite in the next generation. We don't know what part of our conversation, where there's a young boy or girl on the south side of Chicago that after our podcast grabs a hockey stick and goes shoot 300 pucks on the driveway because they want to, reach our level of success. And, I can't figure out if it almost feels like we grew up in like the worst time in Chicago sports because we just missed like Michael's, success. And then it was like a really long time before the Hawks, got good, it felt like.
Yep.
But I just got done talking about this with JVR because he is a real, he's very respectful of both like the science of trying to be his best day in, day out in the NHL schedule with, he uses functional medicine and his different, recovery techniques. He's also very artful. Like his niche in hockey, his ability to tip pucks, his ability to score net front is so unique. It almost like reminded me of, Dennis Rodman, like a different way in that there's such an artful, and you talked about it earlier with playing your role, like at the highest level of team sport, like you're either three players. You're either the star, the player that can play with the star and help them do what they do well, or the player that can shut down the star. Mm-hmm. I guess what are you trying to learn from this documentary? Because it's so fascinating. Like I'm so grateful that, it's released right now and I'm home every Sunday to watch it.
Right. Oh, there's so many things I feel like I'm learning. I've turned to Michael, my husband, and I'm like, God, I love that quote. I love that quote. Oh, I love that. You just get fired up after watching it. And I think, it's seeing all the attention to detail. It's, waking up every day being 1% better. And that's something that we focus on with our national team and something that I focus on routinely. It's, being 1% better and you pick it, whatever you want it to be that day, get 1% better in that. Whether, it was me running sprints this morning, my running technique isn't the greatest. However, I get to and from pretty quickly. So, I'm trying to work on that. And so it's like, okay, today I want to be a little bit better than I was last week running. So,
I can't hold it. Like I've seen you sprint like for
Connor, we run like hockey players.
No, you run like you're a good sprinter. I run like a bad running hockey player. Like I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen you absolutely cook.
I can move, but I think if I had a better technique, I would be a lot more efficient and faster. So just something to work on. But I don't know. I just think it's even so cool to see, all the footage at the United Center, knowing like you've walked through that building and you recognize a lot of those places. And it's amazing to see, a lot of people talk about wanting to be great, wanting to be the best. And there's really no recipe, but we're seeing it right now. And we're seeing it, from Michael Jordan and there's a few others out there, but to see it, that's why there's very few, because there really is no recipe because the recipe is nearly impossible. It's so deep down inside someone that it can't be written out and handed off to somebody else.
Well, so, with everything you've been able to accomplish in your game, you do rely on your speed and skating, to have success at the international level and hopefully soon at the professional level. I know you've played professional, but for what's next for women's hockey, what are you most focused on right now in your personal game to bring to the next level? Like what's your new goal, I guess, for your own personal game?
I think I continue to always work on using my speed effectively because it's easy to skate north and south, east and west. It's easy to be fast, but I think it's a lot harder than people realize to be effective with your speed and to use your change of speed, change of direction efficiently and effectively. And so, working on that and also just controlling the puck, keeping the puck on my stick a little bit longer than I'm used to. I'm definitely more of a passer than a shooter. And so sometimes it's mixing it up and being a little bit more patient with the puck.
And I think you can never be patient enough with the pass. I think it was interesting you said it's really easy to be fast, because I'm not sure I have the same relationship with speed that you do. I've always been a good skater, but I don't think I'm in the top percentage like you are in your game. I guess, especially here on quarantine time, like I've really tried to like do a lot of video work and see, where I was. It's so easy to get caught up in the 82 game schedule, like of you're focusing on what your coach wants. You're focusing on, trying to, if you played well yesterday, you're trying to play that way again. If you played poorly yesterday, you're so focused on bouncing back. But I've honestly watched like old clips, even clips from junior to see, what did I used to do at the offensive blue line that I've maybe lost a little bit of touch with, or what areas of the ice do I think I could take more risk in? What areas of the ice is not worth the risk? And I've been trying to ask that question of all the hockey players I have on, just because it's interesting to listen to. You've been at the top of your game now for so long, but there's always a new toy. There's always something new that you can continue to develop on.
Yeah, and I think as an elite athlete, if you're satisfied with who you are as a player, you're not elite. I don't think elite athletes are ever satisfied with who they are in their respected sport, because you're always hungry to get better. You're always hungry for more. And I think that's the case. I know it's the case for you. It's the case for me. It's the case for most high level athletes that I know. You're always hungry to get better. You're never satisfied.
How do you make room, honestly, for this at home? Because I'm curious, you and Michael both being high performers, both being professional athletes, how do you guys manage each other's schedule and sort of like genius time, let's call it? Like, let's say Michael thinks it's his time to ride the bike and you think it's your time to ride. Like, how do you guys manage that right now?
We have one bike and one set of dumbbells, so we make it work. And whether it's, structuring a workout so there's not much rest, and one's on the bike, one's off the bike, or we run side by side when we're running outside, and so we're managing it. But we always work out together. We have for the last 6 years. So actually this time it's been nice to have a workout partner, because usually he would be off at football right now. So this is bonus time for us to be able to work out, and it helps me tremendously, because a lot of people in the women's hockey world, we spend a lot of time by ourselves, a lot of time on the ice alone, a lot of time in the weight room alone. So I appreciate every moment I get to work out with someone, especially him, because there's days during this quarantine where we wake up and we used to love our basement and hang out in our basement, but now it's like, oh, you walk down, you see that Aerodyne bike, you want to walk right back up. Yeah. So we've definitely found a way to keep motivating each other, pushing each other, and I appreciate him so much, because similar to your approach to me as an athlete, he has that exact same approach that I'm just trying to get better for my sport. And even though I don't make as much money as he might make in his sport, he knows mine is equally as important, and my preparation and my process is as important as his. So we respect each other. I don't think we fight for who's going on the bike first. It's
a nose goes kind of thing. What? So we talked a lot about, the importance of having a dream and having a role model. What advice do you have to young girls in particular right now who may be listening, and young boys? I think, we both can learn, so much from each other and how we have pursued our respective goals. But what advice do you have out there as young boys and girls build their dreams?
I would say always follow your dreams and believe in yourself. And especially when there's people who don't believe in you, believe in yourself even more. And stay true to who you are. Work to be the best version of yourself every day. And, there were many times when, people tried to take me out of hockey and told me I don't belong in hockey. But my love and my passion for the game was so far greater than anyone's negativity, anyone's noise, anyone's, comment to cut my hair and tell me to go play sports that normal girls play. They had no idea the love and passion I had for the game. And so besides, believe in yourself, always follow your dreams. And I would say no matter what you do in life, whether it's sports or art or music, etc., always do it with love and passion, because you'll never work a day in your life. If you love what you do and you have a passion for what you do, you can really reach the pinnacle of whatever you're doing.
Beautiful. And then, one other question I've been asking all of our guests is we are on quarantine right now. What in the world is lighting you on fire right now to talk about? I talk about, a couple different ways of, I'm really not concerned, but I'm really rooting people to try and do the best they can with their mental health out there. JVR, we talked a lot about The Last Dance, and just, for him right now, he's really trying to study how to apply some of those lessons. What's something that's really been speaking to you? What's been a thought on your mind a lot lately?
Some days have been easier than others, and I know this is the same situation for you. This is definitely the longest I've been off the ice since I was 3 years old when I started playing hockey. That's been challenging. What has really spoken to me was I saw Drew Brees post this, and during tough times, I've really gone back to it, and I've read it, and it speaks to me. He said, "I think that when the dust settles, we will realize how little we need, how very much we actually have, and the true value of human connection." And I think it's really just taking this time and spending it with my husband, with my parents, with his parents, and just trying to engage with our loved ones, and especially in a time where we're not used to having. And I think before we end, I think a lot of credit is deserved, and appreciation to all the healthcare workers, the essential workers, and all of those that are on the front lines, because we're people who get to stay inside to help stop the spread. However, there are people on the front lines who don't have that opportunity. They're the ones, really fighting this disease. So I think, thanks to them, we're able to have that time and that human connection in a safe space in our house.
So Kendall, I know, you do take your role as a leadership member in our community so importantly. Like, you talked about how important the camp for Carrick was for you. Mm-hmm. And now I know you're running your own camp at Arctic Ice Arena. I know you do a fantastic job. You do a lot of work to align yourself with sponsors, and you got nutritionist seminars. Like, talk a little bit about, what you're trying to do with your hockey camp there in Orland.
Yeah, so I remember back when I was 7 and I walked into Cammy Granado's hockey camp, and it was right after the Olympic Games, and there were over 100 girls there. And I just remember being 1, confused, and 2, excited. Confused because all the people to that moment in my life told me girls don't play hockey. And I was like, there's over 100.
Yeah. Yeah, where are all you from?
This is amazing. Yeah,
Awesome.
And it's crazy when you look back, some of the players that were there were, named Hillary Knight, Brianna Decker, Molly Schaus, all Olympians. Like, everyone wanted to be a part of it because we all heard the same narrative as a kid. And so, that really fueled me in my hockey career, and really fueled me to believe in myself in this game, because this game was meant for me, and so, remembering that feeling I had when I was 7, it still stays with me to this day. And so as soon as I graduated from Northeastern University, my first goal was to start my own hockey camp, because obviously you can't use your name for a hockey camp while you're in school because the NCAA rules. So, the summer I graduated, that was the first Kendall Coyne hockey camp, and we're going on year 5, and I'm super excited. And, a lot of people have asked, well, why don't you take your hockey camp to different parts of the country and do multiple camps? And one, for those who have been to the Kendall Coyne hockey camp, know it's my family that's running it. It's just like it's been my whole career. It's a family effort, whether my brothers are on the ice and my mom's running the front desk, and, my dad's taking pictures, and Michael's the off-ice coordinator, and my sister, is a camp instructor. It's a family. It's my family. And so to ask my family to go to different places is challenging. And then 2, and what I think is the most important factor, is that I bring kids to the Arctic Ice Arena because that's where I grew up. That's where I put my first pair of skates on, and that's where my love for the game started. And I want to show them that no matter where you're from, you can accomplish your dreams too, whether it's going to the Olympic Games, playing college hockey, or whatever it is. Like, this is where it started for me. On this rink, I was stomping on the ice with a walker and picking up stuffed animals. This is it. This was it for me. And so I really love to bring the girls into this environment to show them, this is my home. And, I think there's nothing more welcoming to someone you don't know than inviting them into your home. And to me, the Arctic Ice Arena, formerly known as the Orland Park Ice Arena, was definitely my home away from home as a kid. So I'm really excited. I hope this 5th year happens. Obviously, there's a lot of unknowns right now, but we're expecting over 100 girls from coast to coast, and for 3 days in July. And it's a 3 days fun-filled days. Nutrition lecture, like you mentioned, on and off ice. Test, or don't put testing. Just good. You can go on.
And I mean, I think there's something special about recognizing like the walls you're in. It's a cool feeling when that greatness was born here. So I totally understand why you'd want to keep it at Arctic, and that rink was special to both of us. We grew up there. We both, we stick Kendall in those hallways when we shouldn't. We, ask coaches for extra ice time. And
right here, 18 stitches, sharks and minnows.
Son of a gun. How about that? What a great game, Sharks and Minnows.
Remember the back where
was it from one of the kids, or you're talking about when you were young?
No, when I was young at the Orland Park Ice Arena in the back. Do you remember how they had those old boots, the big white boots?
Yep.
We were playing Sharks and Minnows. I probably didn't know how to tie my shoes, to be honest. And I was running to get away from the shark, and someone stepped on my shoe, and I smoked the bench. Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah, I miss it. I do love that feeling like of going back in the summer and skating there. I don't know, it takes me back, it takes me back to 4, 5, 10 years old trying to live the dream.
Yeah, well, when you're, in season doing your practices with your team, I'm usually there by myself at 6, 7, 8 a.m. So some things haven't changed for me.
Well, I mean, that's honest to God. That's why every summer I try to text you like, hey, I've got ice here. If you're looking for stuff, just, because it is lonely. Like, it's a lonely path, to the top sometimes. I know that gets overplayed, and I guess, there really are 3 sort of groups of people that, listen to this podcast. One is young athletes, kids, and then 2 is like 20 somethings trying to do something, people our age, kind of out of college, looking for the next thing. And then I do get a lot of questions from, heads of family, parents, moms, dads. What do I do with my kid? How do I help expose them, to what you maybe had as a kid? And, it's interesting when you talk about all the high-end talent that's come out of those Cami Granado camps. That's one of the things I really would recommend if you're a parent out there. Can you facilitate, like with your youth teams, with your young players, a community where they can all sort of practice at each other's house and, take turns at whose house they, wreck the walls in playing shinny and encourage this sort of development? Because as a kid, there's so many pulls on your attention now with video games and school requirements. And I get that. But if you can have a little community where like, there's just, I don't know, anywhere from 4 to 10 players. Like, I was lucky. I played on Dave Gust's team. So Dave is a player, who's playing in the American Hockey League last year, and his dad owned Arctic Ice Arena. So, we always had, access to, whether it was extra ice in the summer or, I just kind of tagged along with Dave and just tried to always see what he was doing. I had some coaches invite me to, whether they were, older kids practice. Like, I know you used to practice with the boys still sometimes when you started playing girls hockey. And just, if you can find a community and a way to kind of get some extra out of this game, like, that's what I always recommend for development, really for professional hockey. And I don't say like push it down your kid, but if your kid is hungry for more, that's a good way to foster that growth.
But I think too, going off that, it's super important that young kids are playing multiple sports. I couldn't believe in that more. I think if you watched the NFL draft this past weekend, you saw how many sports that those guys were playing and playing it at high levels as well. And so when I was a kid, I was playing basketball, track and field, softball, baseball, and obviously hockey. And I didn't stop playing softball until after my sophomore year of high school. And I would have loved to play all 4 years at Sandburg, but I had to pick one because of the conflicting time commitments. But I think too, if parents aren't able to afford hockey camps and aren't able to afford that extra, skill session here or there, your kid can still make it to the top. It's within them. And, besides the Cammy Granado camp, I really wasn't doing many camps in the summer. I was usually playing softball or baseball. And so I think, for all the parents out there, it's okay if you can't make all of those extra, commitments that a lot of kids are doing these days. And I hope you encourage your kids to do multiple things, because I think each sport prepares you in a different way. Each sport teaches you a new lesson that goes beyond the field and the ice. And you get to meet so many different types of people, and you have a diverse background by playing different sports. And so I think that's really, really important. And, a lot of my best friends have come from multiple sports. So I think that's really important.
I totally agree. And I talked about that. I talk about that with a lot of parents who, call me and ask me, the kid's 12, 13, and, they get my number from my dad or whatever, and they want to talk about, do they want to play baseball or not? Number one, every other sport will lend itself to hockey really well. Like, all sports make you better at other sports for the most part. And also, there's something to be said for, like, Kendall, what would have happened if at 12 years old you said you love basketball and you would have picked that and you would have grown up to be 5'2"? Like, what? But if you play hockey, you've got a chance to be really high end. It's just like in The Last Dance.
Some people would beg to differ.
But like Scottie Pippen, right? Like, imagine, he left basketball too early and he grows all, to be the size he became in school, in college. So I don't know. I get nervous when athletes get so specialized so early now. I know it's grown common. I know there's the birth of hockey schools, and it's hockey, 365. But, I just, when you go to a buffet, right, you eat until you get full, and then you usually feel sick and you leave. And I feel like hockey's become this buffet for a lot of kids, where it's like parents are giving so much access. They're giving, there's so much ice time available. It's 365 days a year. Like, I'm a professional and I have a hard time being as excited when I show up to the rink 365 days a year.
No, you can't. And especially as a kid, you have to get out of the rink. You have to take those skates off. You have to do something else. Whether you can be rollerblading outside and playing, shooting pucks in your backyard, you can still do hockey, but you have to get out of the rink. You have to have a change of scenery, and you have to stay hungry for the game. And I think that's what I appreciated from my childhood was my parents never said you have to go to the rink. It was always, when can I go to the rink? When can I go to the rink? And when I was playing softball and when I was playing baseball, I never asked them, well, can I go to the rink too? I knew that I had the opportunity to play softball or baseball at this time, and that's what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And then when that ended, I'm like, can I go to the rink?
Yeah,
and so I was hungry again. I was and trust me, when I was playing softball and baseball, I was still shooting pucks. I was still, hockey was always, on my mind. It was a sport that I really gravitated to. That's what I loved the most, but I still really loved, baseball and softball. And so I would do both. And I'm very thankful that my parents allowed me the opportunity to do both. And I know that's challenging for some, but with 4 kids, we kind of did what each other did. So whether my brother was baseball, I was baseball, and whatever we were doing collectively. So I think it made it for a real fun childhood. That's for sure.
Well, and it just makes you a better player. Like I played baseball at a decently high level, and like I always felt it helped my hand-eye as a hockey player tremendously. Mm-hmm. I remember, I think it was in 7th grade, I played 1 year of football, and I really learned how to take contact and how to brace and how to, I was playing quarterback. So, how to pivot really and defend. And it lended itself well to hockey. And I think it was really important for my athletic, career's growth. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, a lot of people and a lot of fans and a lot of kids look up at us and go, wow, look at the athletes at the highest level. They only play hockey. That's what I should do. And it's like, just because this is what I do now, it doesn't mean that's how I got here.
Right.
There's a difference there. So I hope, parents listening to that really consider and think long and hard before, you begin to pull your kid out of every other sport. And of course, there are time demands, there are financial demands to, what, parents have their kids in. I don't know everyone's situation out there, but I just know from an athletic background perspective, I think it's something I can't recommend enough. I've always rooted your success on from a young age. I players know players. I always knew you were an elite player. It was just a matter of time to see your success with, USA Hockey, and I root for, many more gold medals in 2022 and 2026 and, so on and so forth. But I want to commend you I've been so proud of the way you've handled the torch, really since that NHL All-Star weekend, to continue the growth of the game, to continue to use your platform and your name to spread good. Like you're such a source for passion and for hard work, and to allow people to create clarity around their commitment, because you embody that day in, day out, and you share a little bit of insight, through your social media channels and things like that. Thank you for really being the leader you have been around rinks that we both grew up in, in Orland Park, where, we're both from. How can people get in touch with you? How can people give to, your charities? And you're extremely involved in our community. Where can people best find you?
Yeah, I think, whether it's through my social media channels, my website, kendallcoyne.com, or you can always give at the Schofield Family Foundation. That's the foundation my husband and I started a little over a year and a half ago. And we have 5 focus areas of the foundation, and those were all areas that really spoke to us. Those are military, first responders, youth sports organizations, families in need, and education. We're actually giving away the scholarship, the second annual Schofield Family Foundation scholarship tonight to Carl Sandburg High School senior student athlete, which is really exciting. Unfortunately, done virtually, but we're excited to continue, that legacy and give that scholarship away. And so we've been doing a lot of work through our foundation, and that's really during this time we've spent a lot of time on that. And like you said, provided 60,000 meals to the Greater Chicago Food Depository, and just trying to help those in need, because this is a time where there's so much need, and there might not be a time where there's greater need in our lifetime than right now. And so we've been trying to take all of the resources that we have within the foundation and help those in need. And so either Schofield Family Foundation is ours. It's SchofieldFamilyFoundation.com. But there's so many phenomenal organizations out there that are in need of assistance. So I would encourage people to seek those places. I think there's a lot of need at the local food pantries. Michael and I volunteered our time at those places. You have to be able to lift a lot of weight, not have been exposed to COVID-19. And so I think they're in need of helping box these meals for families. So, there's a lot of need out there. And so if you're able to give, that's great. And I think too, I encourage people to remember those people that really helped you in time of need, and to go back and see if they're in need right now, because there's a good chance that they are. And so whether it's your favorite pizza shop, or, a business that sponsored an event, really look to them, because they were there when you needed assistance. So we're just trying to do our part and encourage others to be involved in the community and to give back. And that was a goal of ours ever since that was like the second on the list after getting married. It was start a foundation. So it's been extremely rewarding process, and we're gonna keep working at it, and hopefully our golf outing this summer takes place, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah, I mean, Kendall, I hope at some point you've been able to pause here, with the world a little bit, at least the hockey world on pause. That I hope you take some time to reflect on, and I notice how humble you are as a person, but I hope you're proud of yourself. Like the way you've always been able to serve yourself so you can serve others from a position of strength is so admirable. You've been a great role model to me and all young athletes, hockey players or not, boy or girl. I've really appreciated yours and Michael's friendship, and I wish you guys all the best, as our careers hopefully, continue here in the not so distant future. But I really hope you you understand just how powerful, and I hope you feel proud of your efforts, because it's really been it's been special to watch you to continue to grow as a leader. And I just hope you're proud of yourself.
Likewise, Connor, and to Lexi as well, and Hoagie.
And Hoagie, but I'm not sure. Did you hear him snoring a little bit ago? He was dreaming and he started kicking and stuff.
But it's pretty cool to be a part of this podcast. It's crazy to think between you, myself, and Michael, we were all little kids running around Humphrey and Centennial, and whether it was the rinks, in Orland Park, or roaming the halls of Carl Sandburg, and we all accomplished our dreams. And I think that is proof to all kids out there. It doesn't matter where you come from. You can reach your dreams if you have the courage to work for them. And I think all three of our paths really were different, but prove that we can make it to the top, and we did. And we're just three kids from local suburb of Illinois, and here we are. So it's been pretty cool to share that connection from a sports level, and obviously a friendship level is a whole nother thing. But appreciate you all the support that you've shown the women's game.
Kendall, thank you for that. And again, if there's any way I can continue to help, I'm so excited to see you go into broadcasting. I think you're going to be excellent there. You have been excellent. I'm excited to see your growth. And I think just having that visibility of women around the men's game will lend itself, to when the women's game is able to take off professionally. Just keep being the light you are in the world. I'm so excited to see what's next for you. And stay safe, stay healthy, in this time, and continue to take care of your family. But I look forward to, hopefully being able to get together soon and have some ribs out back like you promised. But I want to see if this Michael, if he knows what he's doing on this Traeger, he claims he's got down pat. So
he does. But yeah, I hope so too. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to whoever your next guest is.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kendall.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening, wherever you may be in the world, whatever you're doing today. Thank you for spending your time here today with Kendall Coyne-Schofield and myself. She is truly an exceptional individual. I'm so excited to see how her career progresses, what she does with the PWHPA, how she continues to fare as one of the best players in U.S. women's hockey. Also has a master's degree from Northeastern, which we didn't talk about today. She is into broadcasting currently. What a well-rounded individual. Truly always enjoy our time together. I look forward to trying to, hopefully once quarantine's over, get together with her and her husband and throw down. But again, thank you for listening. I truly continue to ask for all likes, subscriptions, shares with mom, dad, with your men's league team goes a long way in supporting our growth here with this podcast. I really enjoy some of the conversations I get to have here each and every week. I know I'm learning a lot about myself, about my guests, and I hope you are too. Thank you for joining us. Please continue to show your support.